Hi, it's Jamie with UK Extension, and we're going to talk about a topic today that is on many people's minds in the late summer and fall, and that is houseplant pest. I know that many of you, like myself, give your plants that little break outdoors, which is wonderful for their overall health to get them out in better growing conditions so they don't constantly decline in the indoor conditions. But when we do that, we do have to be a little concerned about some insects we might bring back in. So in a perfect world, if you're a planter, you would start thinking about these things about August, and before those plants come in, you would do some things. We'll do another video related to exactly how you condition plants to bring them indoors for the winter. In this video, we want to talk about some of the common insect pests of houseplants, how to spot them, and once you know what you're dealing with, we'll then have separate videos that explain mealybug or whichever pest in detail with control options and that sort of thing. So before you bring plants in or even think about it, it's not a bad idea to inspect. It's almost an essential thing to do. And what you would be looking for is signs of any kind of problem, and this means we're going to turn over leaves, particularly if you're seeing a lot of yellowing or spots or things on the leaves. And the underside of the leaf is where you're going to identify many of these pests. For example, mealybug tends to be found more heavily in the leaf axils, which are these tiny little places where the leaf joins the stem. Mealybugs are those white things that will cluster there, almost cottony-like. Very difficult to control, but if you catch them early, they can be brought under control without a lot of difficulty, but if they get full-blown, whole nother problem. So the other one I want to talk to you a little bit about is spider mite. Spider mites, first of all, are actually arachnids, not true insects, but they tend to thrive in dry air and high heat conditions. There are some cool season species of mites as well, but for our house plants, the spider mite is probably the biggest pest we deal with. Becomes exacerbated, these problems, if you allow plants to get too dry or drought stressed, so mites are really drawn to that. But spider mites are very hard to spot. They're tiny. But what we would look for is stippling on the leaf, little tiny specks. And if it gets bad enough, you can see the whole leaf covered in little specks till it looks a little off green. And when the problem gets really bad, you can notice webbing in the leaf axils and around this stem. And again, this is not the easiest pest to control, but we'll tell you some things you can do. But scouting is the key, the first sign of those little things. And scouting is not just something you do for insects end of the season when we're thinking of bringing plants in. That's an imperative time because there are no predators indoors and they'll just multiply like mad. Two more I want to discuss with you. One would be scale, and there's a lot of different scales, both hard and soft. Scale insects, the more noticeable ones, are often little bumps, like little turtle shell-like things that appear on the stems. They're normally going to be on some of the younger stems, and they range anywhere from little flat white or other colors of things that are elongated and stuck to the stem to big fat bubbly things that really do make you think turtle shell. And scale is one of the most difficult houseplant insects to control simply because that shell protects them, and we'll give you some tips about that. But to scout for them, you're just constantly looking at new growth and newer branches, the 1 and 2 year old growth, to see if there's any bumps. You can also check undersides of leaves because these leaf petioles are sometimes a spot you'll see scales when infestations become severe. So looking for these things continually, when you find them early, it's easy to control. One other thing that is not a pest, but we get lots of calls about, it's not a pest of foliage per se like the others are, but it's a pest of the soil, and that would be fungus gnats. And we see lots of this in plants that tend to stay too wet between waterings. And with fungus gnats, I'm sure you've seen them before, they're just like fruit flies, well, not just like, but very similar to fruit flies in their appearance. They tend to eat the organic matter in wet soils. So just allowing the plant to dry down can help with that. We'll give you more management tips about it. But if you bring your plants in and you find there's lots of gnats buzzing around that you didn't have before, you may very well have fungus gnats in the soil, and that is something that watering practice can take care of. So we're going to add all the photos and things to help you be effective in identifying these pests. And once you realize what the problem is on your plant, you'll be able to look at our other videos about specific information about all of these things and how you can best manage them to keep your house plants healthy and hopefully prevent these things from happening to begin with.